everyone, and welcome back to the Sweet Tea series. My name is Ariana Guajardo. Thank you guys for joining me today. You may notice the set looks a little bit different. That's because I'm here with United Gen, and they've had this whole setup today during their launch. I'm so excited to be here with them. And not only that, today I am with someone who you have at multiple times probably been scrolling on Instagram and seen her face. Savannah Craven, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I have a confession to make. This is called the Sweet Tea series. But the only thing we had today was regular unsweet iced tea. Goodness. But we can make it sweet with the conversation. But
exactly, I love that.
So yeah, we're gonna have to, I guess, sweeten it up a little bit. So for people who, I know for a lot of people, your face is gonna be somewhat familiar because you've done so much work in the pro-life movement, partner with several different organizations, and you're very well known for your man on the street type interviews. How long have you been doing those?
Thank you. Yes, well, full-time with Her Patriot Voice, which is my independent YouTube channel where I have a show and I go out on the streets, as you mentioned, liberal protests. It hasn't even been a year yet that I've been fully independent. I started last May full-time, but it's been a wild ride for sure.
Did you first get interested in conservative talking points? Was it mostly through the pro-life movement that started everything for you?
Well, I grew up conservative. I was raised conservative by my wonderful mother, and every morning as she was doing my hair for school, Fox and Friends was on, and I used to say when I was a little girl that I wanted to grow up and be the female Bill O'Reilly. It's like
really?
This little joke that I had. And yeah, it was always a dream of mine to be on Fox and Friends and report on things that were going on in the news cycle. But I found a love for theater very, very quickly. I think my first production I did was when I was in like third grade, and I was the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland. And I took that very seriously. You know, some girls like cheerleading or dance, and for me it was singing and acting and musical theater.
So you were the theater kid?
Yes.
That was me from like middle through high school as well.
Yes.
So did it at home, were your parents like always hearing the like musical theater songs like going on constantly? Because my parents by the end of it knew like all the same musicals that I did.
Definitely. We had Hamilton and Legally Blonde going all the time, and my mom had a great love for it and loved coming to see my shows. And then I moved to New York City to go to a musical theater conservatory. And this was around 2019 and then 2020 when our whole worlds changed very, very quickly. And that was what really exposed just the hypocrisy of how they aren't really diverse in Hollywood and in the theater world. It's so dominated by leftists, which is fine. But when someone has a different idea, they go and shut you down. And our entire love that we have is pretending to be people that we aren't. We're going on stage, we're playing a character. It shouldn't have anything to do with politics. And I fully believe that people can do things in their personal lives, but we're there because we're good enough to be cast in that role, right? Not because of our political opinions. And it made me feel very isolated. I was getting so much hate comments and messages from people who I thought were my friends, you know, my fellow classmates, saying that...
And was this whenever you started voicing your opinions is when you got the backlash?
It's just simply when I started questioning the Black Lives Matter riots and what was going on in our country after George Floyd died. And there was just so much misinformation being spread. And I said, you know, maybe it's important to just look into the full context of what actually happened, like reading the autopsy report and watching the body cam footage. And apparently that means I'm crazy, right? And one thing that really hit home was that although I had always grown up as pro-life because I'm Catholic, I didn't really know what abortion was until high school, till one of my friends actually experienced an unintended pregnancy, and she ended up keeping the baby after almost going to the scheduled abortion appointment.
Praise God.
And because I was raised just by my mother, it kind of made me think about the situation she was probably in, thinking that, well, I know I'm going to have to do this alone, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to keep it like this was a puppy she found on the street. This is a human being, and you've been chosen to raise this human being, and that's your duty. And so it just showed me how strong women are. And I just had a passion for that. And then finding out that Black Lives Matter, the co-founder of the organization, was best friends with the late Cecile Richards, who's former Planned Parenthood president. And that was insane to me. How can you say that Black Lives Matter, but then you support the organization that kills the most Black lives? And I just called that out. And that made me a white supremacist, apparently.
Yeah, when I look at you, the first thing I think is white supremacist. So
I know, right? I think I'm missing at least one of those, but
we have very similar stories. My dad, so my dad was the Fox News parent, and it was Megyn Kelly who would be on the screen, and he's like, "That's gonna be your way. You need to go to law school so then you can be on Fox News and then do all that kind of stuff." So he's been loving the fact that I've been doing more of the podcasting kind of things. But it's interesting the way that people will try to turn on you, or whenever I went to UT actually, and we're filming this I think this is technically part of the UT campus here. But it was, whenever we did activism stuff on border, I was told that I was too white passing to have opinions on immigration, which I don't think that should qualify you to have opinions on things that affect every American anyway, but that was definitely a part of it.
Not be immigrants.
But the biggest thing that always had pushback was the pro-life stuff. So there were a couple of instances. One of them that I remember was we brought in a speaker. Have you heard of Michael Baumberger before? Mm-hmm. He does some really good work, has a wonderful testimony because he was almost a victim of abortion himself, and his mom chose life. But whenever we had him speak, there was a smoke bomb that someone planted. So we just started seeing smoke coming into the room, had to exit and stuff like that. But have you noticed, for you in the work that you do now, is that one of the issues that angers people a little bit more now?
I think that abortion is always a touchy subject. I think that unfortunately there have been a lot of women who have experienced domestic violence situations. It's possible that they have been raped, or they've been with a man who, once they told them they were pregnant, they didn't want to come forward and be a man and raise the child with them, right? And we know that I think it's over 90% of the time when a man is ready to step up and be a father in an unintended pregnancy, the woman feels more confident to go forward with carrying the pregnancy. And so the man plays a huge role in a woman choosing life or having an abortion. But of course it can always be touchy, because at least 1 in 5 women by the time they're 45 have had an abortion. And then all of us know someone who have had an abortion, right? And while the pro-abortion side can say it's just a clump of cells, that, it's a parasite, or it wasn't really a baby yet, we know that if one of our friends or our sisters were to miscarry, that would be a tragedy. Why? Why is a miscarriage a tragedy? It's because a baby dies, and a baby dies in an abortion. So when you're not forced to talk about it, and then you have somebody come up to you and start talking about that, and maybe it reopens that wound, or they were told for so long that this is something you should be empowered by, and then I say to them, no, your baby died. You played a part in killing your baby. And most women know this when they go in to get that abortion. It hurts, right? Because we are told that it's empowering. It was your body. It was your choice. You shouldn't be upset about it, because that's feminism for you. That's your right to control your life and your body. But then many women who are post-abortive, they will admit that they feel this guilt, that they feel something is not right. And it's because their baby was ripped from them.
Mm-hmm. And they know that there's something missing. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're talking about how important it is for men as well to be involved parents, and that's a big part of how women choose it. But a lot of the people who are leading the pro-life movement right now are women. And I think the left has done an excellent job marketing that, no uterus, no opinion. How do you, or I guess we in the conservative side of things, combat that kind of thinking, and how do we engage men in this conversation?
Yeah, well, it's good that you brought that up, because I think it's funny that you can't have an opinion on abortion unless you have a uterus, but you can be a woman and not have a uterus. I always think that's really interesting.
Yeah, that is a new standard.
But yes, I think it's amazing that we have such strong women in the pro-life movement, many that are post-abortive as well, and have come to the pro-life side and talk about their story. Women who, had conceived with a man that maybe they didn't really know that well, and they decided to join together and say, no, we're going to step up and be adults, and we're going to raise this family. That's a beautiful thing. And that's where we need to hold men accountable. I always say that abortion was designed for men, because they can go and use women, sleep with them, the first night they met them, or just keep sleeping with them very casually. And then as soon as he gets her pregnant, here's the $300 for an abortion. Well, it's your body, your choice. I don't want anything to do with it. Go do what you need to do. And then it leaves the woman not only having to go through that traumatic experience, and sometimes very dangerous. It's very dangerous to have an abortion, not obviously just for the baby, but for women as well. You can experience many complications. The worst things that have happened, women have experienced complete uterine perforation, which messes up their ability to have babies in the future. And then Planned Parenthood specifically has killed many women in botched abortions, like Cree Irwin, Diana Lopez. So informed consent is very, very important. But when the man shows up and says, I'm going to take care of us because that's my duty, that is what a woman needs to hear in that situation. So I like Ryan Bomberger very, very much, because not only did it directly affect him, abortion directly affected him almost, but he's a strong advocate for adoption. He's a great father. He's a strong man and a great speaker. And men need to stop being afraid. You do have a place in the pro-life movement, and we need you here, really.
Right. And I know that the pro-life movement is just one of the many different subjects that you've begun to cover. So what are some of the other areas that have been important to you in the conservative movement?
Of course. So since January, we know that ICE has been at the center of most leftist protests and riots. And unfortunately, people have decided to break laws and commit felonies, and some have even lost their life trying to fight for illegal criminals, many of them rapists, cyber criminals, drug addicts, drug traffickers. And that's something that I've been talking a lot with students on campus about, because the thing is that ICE was instituted before many of us were even born, right? And the ideas of ICE, after, even before it was founded under DHS after 9/11, the ideas of this were from the inception of our country, that we need to protect the people inside first, and we're welcome, immigrants are welcome here to come here and contribute. But just like when they were coming to New York City's Ellis Island, everybody had to be checked. You had to make sure that you weren't smuggling illegal substances or dangerous contents in your bags. We had to make sure that you weren't bringing diseases to the land, right? These are simple things that have existed since we've been around as a country. But one thing I've noticed, and I think that even people on the left can admit this, is that they're just mad because Trump's doing it.
And that makes it therefore bad. Yeah.
Exactly. And the way that Obama went about deportations, where he talked more about, we just want to get this done. I can't remember the exact wording. It'll probably come to me. But they were more focused on how fast they could get everything done rather than the legitimacy of everything, which is not great. And of course, there can be issues in every institution, right? Not all cops are bad. Not all cops are great. Not all teachers are great, but not all teachers are bad. And so when we see mistakes happening inside ICE, of course, we can still support it while also calling out any injustices that are happening in that. And that's where the left doesn't understand that even if I'm a Trump supporter, I can still support him with also at the same time being able to criticize some of the decisions that he's made.
Right. So you can have, maybe this is hard for people on the left to understand, but we don't have to be just continuously loyal with someone. You can have well-rounded philosophies, and sometimes we can disagree with one another on the right, but we talk those things out. Actually, something that I think is also important in education for when we're talking about ICE, you were talking about some of the criminals who are here at the Texas Policy Summit, which is going on just downstairs. Yesterday, Lily Tejas, who's a senator from Mexico, was talking about some of the cartels and the extreme military violence, because they're basically militaries, a lot of these cartels, and they already have personnel inside of the U.S. So these are the situation that we're facing right now. And for some reason, you've decided to settle down or be doing your work right now in New York City. So you're surrounded, I'm guessing, constantly by people who disagree with you. How do you, well, for one, how do you have like community and friends over there? But why did you choose New York and to put yourself in that situation where you're not going to be in a space where you agree with people all the time?
Sure. Well, I ended up in New York for theater to
Right.
begin with. And then after COVID and I found my passion for activism, I wanted to go to a place that really needed help. You know, Little Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, although there's still some leftists there. South Carolina is mainly taken care of, right? There's enough people there doing good work. And I loved the lifestyle that New York City provides. It's very fast paced, which is kind of how I am.
Do you like the
There's
walkable, like not having to drive everywhere kind of thing?
I do every now and then. Sometimes it gets a little annoying when you got to carry those heavy groceries, but my number one way that I get around the city is actually cycling.
Oh,
And
really?
it's a great form of exercise as well. So I do enjoy it. But it's just something different. You know, a lot of people say to me all the time, I just don't understand how you could live there, especially as a conservative, but you would be absolutely shocked. The Catholic and Christian population is booming over there. We have so many new young people wanting to attend church and get involved with groups like the New York Republican Club. There's the Women's National Republican Club. And so although we are kind of silent and we keep to ourselves, you'd be shocked how many conservatives are over there. I have a great community.
And I'm trying to remember who wrote the article that came out a few weeks ago that was saying that in New York City, the Catholic Church is the new hottest club. Is that actually, has there actually been a religious revival that you've seen since your time there?
Yes, I mean, people want to feel, people want to know that they have faith in community in such a dark city, because it is. You can feel, you know, the spirits around, that it's dark. A lot of people are going through a lot because we're all working our butts off to live in this city that somehow we all figure out how to afford, right? Meanwhile, having a communist, socialist, dictator type person as our mayor.
Yeah, good luck there.
Yes, exactly. But again, we can't just flee from the troubles. I think that's something that Jesus tells us, you know, that we got to put ourselves where the issues are. And while I also, you know, feel I'm totally fine with people coming to somewhere like Texas or Oklahoma or somewhere a little bit more normal to raise a family, I feel that if you're young and you want to be an activist and you want to make a difference, you do need to put yourself in a hostile situation sometimes.
Yeah, I like to joke sometimes that in Austin, whenever people get here, I'm like, sorry you had to leave Texas to get here to Austin, or whenever I make it to Dallas, I'm like, finally, I'm back in Texas. But there, you still find more, maybe it is similar to New York, where you can still find your pockets of community, whether it be church or like conservative groups and stuff like that. But earlier you were also talking about how, like you were saying that Georgia, or which state was it, Georgia, that you were saying is okay for now, or?
So no, I mean, I think Georgia needs some help, but South Carolina,
South
where I
Carolina,
grew
excuse
up,
me, yeah.
yes. I mean, Georgia's good, and then there's Atlanta that decides a lot. So there's
Doesn't that happen in every state? It's like your one blue city where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
can it just feel a little bit better?
Pretty much.
But for places like Texas that are continuing to have, which is a generally conservative state, what can states like Texas do to hold down the fort while people like you are trying to make a difference in these other blue cities? What do we need to be doing and on our side here in the places that are already conservative?
Yeah, well, I mean, even if a state is red, there are still pockets that are very, very blue. And so work needs to continue to be done in those cities because there will be more people, I think, that are going to try and infiltrate red states because they're not making the connection that the reason they want to flee their blue state is because the taxes are too high, the affordability is not there, there's too much crime, right? They're not making that connection. And so I don't know exactly what the answer is to get people to connect the dots there. But I would say the way that I try to do it is going out on the street and talking to people and kind of putting a new idea in their mind.
And if there's a young person they're excited, they're like, you know, I'm on a college campus right now, no one agrees around me, and I don't want to speak out to become a target, what would you tell them?
I would say you should start either a Turning Point USA group, a pro-life or conservative group, and be brave. You're going to get backlash, but you got to be ready for that. And you're not going to regret it once you start that group because your leadership and you sort of carrying that torch and showing people that no, it is okay to think the way that we do. It is okay to love America and have these constitutional values. when I was working with a previous pro-life organization, I would start new pro-life groups on campuses, and I'd usually just start with one student, and I'd show up and I'd table with them. And by the time we were done, we'd have 10 to 15 people interested. And so it really just takes one person to take that leap and to be a leader, and others will follow.
And I hope that a lot of people get courage from the kind of stuff you do, because you put yourself literally in physical danger. And if people don't know about it, go find the story where you have blood on your face and everything.
Yeah.
But I hope people know, usually you're not in that kind of physical danger on
not anymore.
Campuses. Yeah,
I have security, thankfully.
Good.
Now. Yes.
But for other people, a lot of it is, if you're fearing being socially ostracized, find your community and know that this is important and worth fighting for. But thank you so much for joining me today. Where can people find you?
Thank you. Yes, you can find me on Her Patriot Voice on YouTube for my long form content, and all my other social platforms are at Savannah A. Craven.
Well, I look forward to seeing all of your future reels, because I absolutely love them. You have no idea. As soon as people found out that you were coming here, well, all the ladies in the office immediately knew who you were. And the guys were like,
so sweet.
"Oh, is she the one who got punched in the face?" I'm like, yes, yes, she is.
I'll never live it down, unfortunately.
No, I admire your bravery. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone else, I will see you next time.